places like Texas, Ireland, Japan, Iceland, France, Italy especially. Did they have the resources? Absolutely. Yeah, and they could do it. And believe you me, it's on their minds. Yeah, absolutely. The union and the one world, one government. OWOGers, OWOG, one world, one government. The OWOGers have basically had this idea of one world, one government, and wouldn't be so great. And basically, a lot of countries are saying no, it's not great at all. And so, yeah, I think that's probably happening.
Well, I think that's happening, but the phrase breakaway civilization, I think, is more applied towards the idea that hidden within the military-industrial complex, possibly, with some control from the financial world, is technology that is so far advanced that they can go, create bases on Mars or whatever, or deep under the ocean or something, and that they may have gotten to the point where they're really basically removed from any civilian normal control. I mean, it's widely quoted that within the U.S. military there are far more security levels above that of what the U.S. president gets. And
well, of course.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but that's a kind of a frightening thought.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely a good thought, because you never trust a politician to keep their mouth shut. It's a comfort.
Well, but Lyn, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So,
and that's why you never give a president the absolute power and the absolute knowledge. Yeah.
I know, but if Raytheon's the contractor, I'm a little concerned, if you know what I mean.
Well,
but there's that famous quote from Bert Rich, I think it was the head of the Skunk Works, who was saying, towards the end of his life, I think he had cancer, and he was saying, we have the technology to take ET home, but it's so deeply buried within the system that it would take an act of God to get it out. And I'm not actually 100% sure that quote is true, but it is very widely stated. And a lot of us suspect that that's true, that actually we do have the technology hidden away to not only, put a base on Mars, but to go further. And one would suspect that the people in charge of that technology would at some point start to feel that they're basically, I don't know if you want to say more important than the president, but at a much higher level.
Well, sure, yeah, and for in science fiction stories, the prediction has been for many, many decades now that there will come a time when companies rule the world instead of governments. But as far as technology, we did a session, a series of sessions one time for a moon exploration company. They wanted to know how to build a base that would house workers who were there to build the first base. In other words, how to make a temporary base that would, would be both affordable and would not be a base, but would house the workers who were there to build the first actual base. And in the remote viewing, what we did basically is we told the viewers move forward in time to where that temporary base is built and describe it. What they described was a small crater that had a sheet of plastic spread over it, reflective plastic that would, reflect the dangerous radiation and yet let light through. And that the crater walls actually sealed it in and provided the security for, keeping the air inside. They filled it with 16 pounds of pressure, which is half of what you put in a bicycle tire, but it's also pressure at sea level. And because it was soft plastic sheeting, if a meteorite hit it, it wouldn't shatter the entire dome. All it would do is punch a hole. So you take rolls of duct tape along to the moon with you, and if a meteorite punches a hole, you simply go up, put some tape over the hole, and you're good to go again. when the exploration company heard all of this, they were just ecstatic, and they were extremely happy and all. Anyway, we did that project for them. Hadn't heard from them in years, and a friend of mine is at JPL, and he was showing me an extremely recent flyby of the moon, and he was talking about different aspects, geological aspects of the moon, and I said, "Whoa, wait a minute, back it up," and he backed it up a few seconds, and I said, "Can you zoom in on that crater?" And that crater had basically a shiny piece of plastic over it. So, this, of course, is a time loop. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. But is the technology there? Yeah, the technology is there. And as far as, I'm not sure what bringing ET home means. Personally, I don't want to abduct an ET. I want his spaceship. I want to get one of those things for myself. But whatever bringing ET home means, does that mean revealing ET or our ET connections and all? I don't know. But yeah, the technology is there.
Okay. And then one last question from me, and that is about Fukushima, the nuclear problem. This disaster seems to be going from bad to worse and then some more. So have you or anyone you know done any targeting of either the accident or its impact? And I guess as a technical question, how would one target in controlled remote viewing the accident and its impact?
Good. Okay. I have not been targeted with that by an outside source. Now, when I give tasking to my students, I always avoid emotionally strong targets because they're just learning. I don't want to get them all tied up in all kinds of emotions and disasters. So I haven't tasked that to any of my students. If some company, some government or whatever wants to come in and task us to look at Fukushima, then yes, we can do it, and yes, we would. So for the first part of your question, no, that tasking hasn't been done by me. It may have been done by other remote viewers or other psychics. I don't know. I just got lost in the second part of your question.
Well, how would you go about tasking it?
Oh, yeah. How would you go about tasking it? First of all, you would task staying away from emotional content, and you would task that the target is a location. Describe the location, and try to make that present time. And they would see all this debris. They would see all stuff and all that, and then go from there to the conceptuals of it, which is right at the end of stage 3, stage 3. But then go to the conceptuals of it, and the conceptuals are going to involve economics, safety procedures, future implications, ramifications of everything that's happened and all that. And so you would ease a remote viewer into the more emotional parts of it after they have gained sight contact and all. Then, if you wanted to carry on from there, you would move the person from Fukushima location into the mental aspects of those who are making the decisions about it, and find out what's going on. What decisions are they going to make? What economic policies is it going to have? I know from the news and from other things that the Japanese government is sort of downplaying the entire thing way beyond what they should. But who's making that decision? Then you go to why are they making that decision? And so when you task a controlled remote viewer, you never throw them at a target and expect them to get the whole thing. You say, okay, viewer number 018, what are your strengths and weaknesses? And we look in the database and find out what their strength is, and we have them like they're good at measurements and so on. Okay, we task them to give us measurements. Another viewer, they have strength in emotions, so we task them for the emotional aspects and so on. And by keeping databases on every viewer, we know what their strengths are, and we know how to get the most accurate information from each one. Then we take the results of all the viewers, give them to an analyst, and an analyst takes all of this information, compiles it, puts it into one big pot, compiles it into an understanding, and develops more intricate questions from that. We look in the database and find out who's capable of answering those questions with the most accuracy, and we farm those back out. And we continue on back and forth like that until we have fully answered the customer's question. That's the procedure that's involved in it.
Okay, thanks, Lyn. Now we'll move over to Jules.
Hi, Lyn. In previous interviews, you mentioned that you expected 1/3 to 1/2 of the population to pass away during these next few years. The climate project from the Farsight Institute, led by Courtney Brown, and which you team led, the CRV team, found conditions using remote viewing between 2008 and 2013 for 9 separate locations that showed considerable earth changes had occurred due to 4 factors. Could you please elaborate on each of these factors? And essentially, people want to know what's going to be happening in the near-term future and the future for the next few years.
I have to admit here that I have done so many sessions and so many projects since then that I don't remember those particular 4 factors. I know that Courtney was working on weather conditions, and his original question really didn't make sense to me, and that is, if we could get leaders to believe in remote viewing, could it change the weather conditions which would cause these things to happen? I don't see how that could happen, but
let me elaborate then, Lyn.
Yeah.
I think the first one. Sorry, one moment. The first area was the impacts of large meteors that will lead to tsunamis and possible volcanism. That was the first area of topic. Did you have any more information in regards to that?
Yeah, basically what he was asking at that point is there a way that humans can prepare for these things if they happen? And so, like earthquakes, he got really excited about the earthquake that was going to hit the Los Angeles airport. And the earthquake did hit Los Angeles airport. He saw total death and destruction and, all that. What actually happened was one area of one terminal was, destroyed with the water leaking down and all, and leaking down into the floor. And so that part of that terminal was cordoned off, and life went on as normal. However, the viewer who saw that